The largest galaxy in the universe hid humanity's greatest secret. Part 1. The Galaxy Beyond Maps. For 20,000 years, every civilization in the known universe believed they had mapped existence itself. The Galactic Alliance had catalogued over 4 trillion star systems. Ancient empires rose. Super civilizations collapsed. Entire galaxies were harvested for energy. Nothing remained undiscovered. Or so they thought. Everything changed the day Observatory Station Orion detected something impossible. Beyond the edge of observable space, beyond the last known galaxy cluster, something enormous moved. At first, scientists dismissed the readings as sensor errors. A galaxy couldn't be that large. The numbers violated every known law of astrophysics. Millions of light years across. Hundreds of trillions of stars. Its spiral arms stretched farther than entire galaxy clusters. Its core shone brighter than 10 million quasars. The discovery shook every advanced civilization. The Galactic Council gave it a single name: the Eternal Galaxy. No probes returned. No signals escaped. Ships entering its outer rim simply vanished. Even civilizations millions of years older than humanity declared it forbidden space. It is not a galaxy, one ancient oracle warned. It is a prison. Earth listened. Unlike the rest of the galaxy, humans didn't panic. They became curious. Every empire asked, "How do we stay away?" Humans asked, "What's inside?" The council laughed. Primitive humans, still confined to one spiral arm, wanted to explore what had terrified immortal civilizations. The council issued an official decree. No human vessel may enter the eternal galaxy. Naturally, humanity ignored it. 3 years later, the exploration ship Odyssey crossed the invisible boundary. The moment it entered, every communication ended. No distress call. No explosion. Nothing. The crew had disappeared. Months passed. The galaxy declared them dead. Humanity held a memorial. Families mourned. The council congratulated itself. We warned them. Then, exactly 1 year later, every communication relay in the universe activated simultaneously. A transmission appeared. Not from Earth. Not from any known civilization. From inside the eternal galaxy. A calm human voice echoed across billions of worlds. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the Odyssey. We have reached the center. You were all wrong." A long silence followed. Then came the sentence that froze every species. "We found who built the universe. And they have been waiting for humanity." Across thousands of alien capitals, entire governments fell into panic. Ancient rulers, beings who had survived the birth of galaxies, turned pale. Because every legend, every prophecy, every forbidden archive, had warned of one thing. If humanity ever entered the eternal galaxy, the universe would never be the same again. Silence. For 17 long minutes, not a single message crossed the galactic network. The transmission from Captain Elias Ward had paralyzed an entire civilization spanning millions of worlds. Then panic erupted. The Galactic Council immediately declared a level Omega emergency. Every military fleet was recalled. Every hyperspace gate leading toward the eternal galaxy was sealed. Ancient races that had not spoken to one another for over 1,000,000 years suddenly gathered in the council chamber. At the center stood the oldest living being in known existence, the Keeper of Time. His species had witnessed stars being born. He had survived the collapse of galaxies. No one had ever seen fear on his face. Until now. "The prophecy has awakened," he whispered. The chamber fell silent. "What prophecy?" demanded an admiral from the Orion Dominion. The keeper slowly raised a crystal tablet so old that even its language had long been forgotten. Its symbols began glowing on their own. After centuries of silence, they translated themselves into every language across the galaxy. When the children of the blue world return to the first kingdom, the sleeping giants shall awaken, and the balance of the cosmos shall change forever. Every eye turned toward Earth. The blue world. Someone whispered. That's their planet. Meanwhile, inside the eternal galaxy, Captain Ward stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, unable to speak. Before him floated structures so massive they made entire solar systems look like grains of dust. World-sized rings orbited stars that had been sculpted into perfect geometric patterns. Nebulas shimmered in impossible colors, their clouds arranged like living paintings. Every planet appeared untouched by war. Every civilization moved in perfect harmony. There were no weapons, no military fleets, no defensive shields. Yet the Odyssey's scanners reported an energy output greater than the combined power of every known empire. The crew realized one terrifying truth. These beings did not need weapons. They themselves were the weapons. Then, the stars moved. Not because the ship was traveling. The stars themselves shifted, forming a colossal spiral around the Odyssey. Light condensed into a towering figure thousands of kilometers tall. Its form was made entirely of starlight. Galaxies rotated within its translucent body. When it spoke, the crew heard the voice not through speakers, but inside their minds. Welcome home. Captain Ward swallowed. Home. The radiant being smiled. You call yourselves humans. We remember you by another name. The first builders. Every heartbeat on the bridge seemed to stop. One of the scientists laughed nervously. That's impossible. Humanity has only been spacefaring for a few centuries. The being extended a hand. Above it appeared a vision of the distant past. Not thousands, not millions, but billions of years ago. The universe was young. Stars were still forming. And among them traveled beings that looked unmistakably human. Not identical, but close enough that no one could mistake their origin. They carried suns in their hands, forged planets from raw matter, created the first stable galaxies, even the eternal galaxy itself. Captain Ward stared in disbelief. Those are us. They are your ancestors, the being replied. They crossed beyond existence to prevent a catastrophe. They erased every record of themselves. They hid your world among primitive civilizations. So that one day, you would grow without absolute power. Back in the Galactic Council, the live transmission continued. Millions watched as the ancient being turned toward Captain Ward. It is time. A single gesture opened the center of the eternal galaxy. What had looked like a brilliant core was actually a sealed gateway. Beyond it lay something no telescope had ever detected. Not another galaxy. Not another universe. Something older. Something that existed before time itself. As the gateway slowly opened, countless stars dimmed across the cosmos. Even black holes trembled. The Keeper of Time collapsed to his knees. His voice shook as he uttered words no one expected. They're coming back. Not to conquer, but to finish what they started. Far beyond the glowing gateway, a colossal shadow began to move. It was larger than galaxies, older than the universe, and it had just awakened. No language in the universe had words for what emerged from the gateway. At first, it looked like darkness. Then the darkness began to move. Not through space, but across reality itself. Entire constellations disappeared behind a silhouette so immense that even the eternal galaxy seemed insignificant beside it. The shadow wasn't a creature. It wasn't a ship. It was an intelligence woven into the fabric of existence. For billions of years, every civilization had believed the universe was infinite. Now they realized it had always existed inside something far larger. Across thousands of alien worlds, telescopes failed. Quantum computers shut themselves down. Artificial intelligences erased their own memories, unable to process what they were witnessing. The Galactic Council's emergency alarms screamed continuously. Impossible mass detected. Gravitational constants changing. Space-time instability spreading. Scientists watched in horror as the laws of physics themselves began to fluctuate. It was as if reality recognized the being, and was reshaping itself in response. Aboard the Odyssey, Captain Elias Ward fought to steady his breathing. His crew stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the unimaginable figure beyond the gateway. The radiant being of starlight remained calm. "There is no need to fear," it said. "It has come because it heard your voices." "Our voices?" Ward asked. "Humanity has reached the level required. For 10,000 generations, we have watched your species. You fought wars. You made mistakes. You destroyed. You rebuilt. You learned compassion. You refused extinction. Every trial was part of the path." Ward frowned. "So, Earth wasn't abandoned." "No. You were hidden." A wave of memories flooded the bridge. Not their own memories. The memories of humanity itself. They saw the first humans lighting fires beneath unfamiliar stars. They saw forgotten civilizations swallowed by time. They saw inventions born from desperation rather than perfection. Unlike the ancient empires that relied entirely on technology, humanity had survived through adaptation. Every disaster had made them stronger. Every failure had forced them to evolve. The architects had never intended humans to remain powerful. They intended them to become resilient. Suddenly, the colossal shadow spoke. Its voice echoed through every corner of the cosmos. Not a sound. A thought. The cycle is complete. Billions of beings heard it simultaneously. Many collapsed unconscious. Others simply wept. The Keeper of Time lowered his head. "It remembers us." The shadow continued. "Children of the first builders. Will you reclaim your inheritance? Or allow creation to end?" No one understood. Captain Ward stepped forward. What inheritance? The universe around him dissolved into light. He found himself standing in an endless white expanse. Across from him stood a man dressed in simple clothes. No armor. No glowing eyes. Just an ordinary-looking human with silver hair. "Who are you?" Ward whispered. The stranger smiled gently. "My name no longer exists. But once, I was the last king of humanity." Ward's heart pounded. The last king. The man nodded. "Long before Earth had oceans. Long before your son was born. Humanity ruled a civilization stretching across realities, not just galaxies." Ward stared in disbelief. "We weren't the first intelligent species. We were the first guardians." The silver-haired king raised his hand. The empty space transformed into a breathtaking vision. Countless universes bloomed like flowers. Each one connected by rivers of brilliant light. At the center stood humanity's ancient civilization, maintaining the balance between them. Then came the enemy. A force that consumed universes not for conquest, but for existence itself. To stop it, humanity made the ultimate sacrifice. They dismantled their own empire, scattered their descendants across a young universe, erased every trace of their greatness, and sealed the Devourer, the colossal shadow, outside reality. "For billions of years," the king said softly, "the prison held. But prisons do not last forever." Ward looked toward the endless darkness pressing against the walls of creation. "So that's why we're here." The king nodded. "You are not here to remember who humanity was." His eyes burned with quiet determination. "You are here to decide what humanity will become." At that exact moment, Every star in the eternal galaxy flashed crimson. A deafening alarm echoed across the Odyssey. Warning! The seal has been breached. The shadow had taken its first step into the universe. And this time, there would be no ancient empire left to fight it. The crimson warning echoed through the Odyssey. Warning! Reality breach detected. The crew rushed to their stations, but every instrument displayed the same impossible reading. Distance to the breach. Unknown. Object size. Unmeasurable. Threat level. Beyond classification. Lieutenant Maya Chen looked out the observation deck and gasped. The stars were changing. Not exploding. Not dying. Changing. Blue stars became crimson. Nebulas twisted into unfamiliar shapes. Entire constellations shifted position as though the universe itself were rewriting its own map. Captain Elias Ward gripped the command console. Status. Our engines are offline. Our navigation systems are gone. Our AI says space no longer behaves according to known physics. The bridge fell silent. Then the silver-haired king appeared once more, not as a vision, but standing in the center of the bridge. No doors opened. No teleportation effect. He simply existed. The crew instinctively stepped back. I have little time, he said calmly. The prison is failing faster than we predicted. Ward met his gaze. Tell us how to stop it. The king smiled. You already know. Ward frowned. I don't. You do. You simply haven't remembered yet. Across the galaxy, chaos spread. The Galactic Alliance mobilized every fleet ever built. Millions of warships assembled near the edge of the eternal galaxy. Some vessels were the size of moons. Others carried weapons capable of igniting stars. For the first time in recorded history, every species fought together. No politics. No rivalries. Only survival. Grand Admiral Zeros looked over the greatest armada ever assembled. All weapons locked. Fire on my command. The moment the colossal shadow emerged from the gateway, he gave the order. A wall of light erupted across space. Trillions of antimatter missiles. Dark energy cannons. Quantum lances. Gravitational singularity bombs. The combined firepower exceeded anything ever unleashed. The explosion illuminated thousands of light years. For one glorious moment, the galaxy believed they had won. Then, the light faded. The shadow remained untouched. Not a scratch. Not even slowed. Instead, it absorbed the energy. Growing larger. Growing stronger. Across every flagship, terrified whispers spread. We just made it stronger. Inside the eternal galaxy, the silver-haired king closed his eyes. This is why we hid humanity. Ward stared at him. Our weapons won't work. They never did. The Devourer cannot be destroyed. It feeds on force. It feeds on fear. It feeds on civilizations that believe power comes only from weapons. Ward clenched his fists. Then why call us back? The king looked directly into his eyes. Because humans no longer think like the first builders. You became something greater. Suddenly, the bridge vanished. Ward found himself standing on Earth. Not the modern Earth. A prehistoric Earth beneath unfamiliar constellations. Primitive humans gathered around a fire. They had no cities. No technology. No starships. Only one another. One hunter shared his last piece of food with an injured stranger. A mother protected another family's child before her own. A tribe welcomed outsiders who had once been enemies. The king's voice echoed softly. Do you see? Ward nodded slowly. They survived together. Exactly. The ancient empire ruled through perfection. Modern humanity survives through unity. The universe does not need rulers. It needs guardians. The vision dissolved. Ward returned to the bridge. The silver-haired king extended his hand. Floating above his palm was a sphere no larger than a heartbeat. Inside it swirled entire galaxies. This is the heart of creation. It does not grant unlimited power. It awakens what already exists. Ward hesitated. If I take it, you will carry the hopes of every living civilization. You will no longer belong only to Earth. You will belong to the universe. The bridge became utterly silent. Every crew member watched. Ward slowly reached forward. The instant his fingers touched the sphere, a pulse of golden light exploded across the eternal galaxy. On Earth, every human stopped what they were doing. Children looked toward the sky. Astronauts aboard orbital stations saw the moon glow with ancient symbols. People who had never met suddenly experienced the same vision. A single sentence echoed in every human heart. Remember who you are. Across billions of worlds, alien sensors detected an impossible phenomenon. Every human, whether on Earth, colonies, or distant starships, had become connected. Not by technology, not by machines, but by consciousness itself. The Devourer finally paused. For the first time since the birth of the universe, it hesitated, and in its endless darkness, two blazing eyes slowly opened. They were fixed on only one world, Earth. Earth had no idea that every intelligent species in the universe was now watching it. Millions of observatories, military command centers, and orbital stations locked their sensors onto a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. To them, Earth had always seemed insignificant. A world of endless conflicts. A civilization barely beginning its journey into deep space. Yet now, the oldest force in existence had ignored every galactic empire and fixed its gaze on humanity alone. Across the Galactic Alliance, a chilling realization spread. They had underestimated humans from the very beginning. On Earth, life appeared normal, for exactly 12 seconds. Then every electronic device flickered. Cars rolled to a stop. Satellites briefly lost contact. The night sky shimmered as if someone had drawn invisible curtains across the stars. People everywhere looked up. Children pointed. Pilots reported seeing rivers of golden light stretching from horizon to horizon. Astronomers watched in disbelief as thousands of stars formed intricate geometric patterns around the solar system. It was not an attack. It was an invitation. Deep beneath the Himalayas, in a chamber hidden since before recorded history, ancient machines awakened. Doors weighing millions of tons slid open for the first time in billions of years. A vast circular hall emerged from the darkness. Its walls were covered with symbols that matched those glowing across the moon. At the center rested a crystalline sphere. The same size, the same color, the same impossible energy as the heart of creation now bonded to Captain Elias Ward. As the chamber awakened, a calm voice echoed through its halls. Earth Protocol Alpha initiated. Guardians recognized. Legacy systems online. Unknown to modern humanity, Earth had never been an ordinary planet. It had always been a vault. Aboard the Odyssey, Captain Ward staggered as visions flooded his mind. He saw oceans before Earth existed. He saw the planet being carefully assembled by the first builders, not as a weapon, but as a sanctuary. Beneath its mountains lay libraries older than galaxies. Within its oceans slept machines capable of repairing fractured spacetime. Even the moon was not entirely natural. It had been positioned as a silent guardian, monitoring humanity's growth across billions of years. The silver-haired king spoke softly. Your ancestors did not leave you armies. They left you choices. Ward opened his eyes. What happens if we fail? The king looked toward the Devourer. Then every universe connected to this one will fall into darkness. And if we succeed? A faint smile crossed the king's face. Then humanity will become what it was always meant to be. Without warning, the Devourer moved. Not with speed. With inevitability. Where its shadow passed, stars dimmed, not because they were destroyed, but because hope itself seemed to fade. Entire alien fleets lost the will to fight. Veteran admirals who had never retreated ordered full withdrawals. Some soldiers simply stared into space, overwhelmed by despair. The Devourer did not conquer through violence. It conquered by convincing civilizations they had already lost. But something unexpected happened. On Earth, a little girl stood outside her home, looking at the glowing sky. She smiled. "It's beautiful." Across the planet, millions of others reacted the same way. They were curious, inspired, determined. Instead of surrendering to fear, humanity did what it had always done in its darkest hours. People helped one another. Scientists shared discoveries freely across borders. Old enemies declared ceasefires. Astronauts volunteered for missions they knew they might never return from. Doctors, engineers, soldiers, teachers, and ordinary families all made the same quiet decision. If the universe needed defenders, they would stand together. Watching from the eternal galaxy, the silver-haired king closed his eyes in satisfaction. They've learned the final lesson. Captain Ward looked at him. What lesson? The king answered with absolute certainty. True strength is not the power to destroy. It is the courage to stand together when destruction seems certain. At that very moment, every human across Earth, and every colony beyond it, felt the same surge of resolve. The golden light connecting humanity intensified, spreading outward through the solar system and into the stars. For the first time in billions of years, the Devourer took a step backward. Not because humanity possessed the greatest weapons. Not because they commanded the largest fleet. But because it had encountered something it had never been able to consume. Hope. And in the endless silence between galaxies, a single ancient voice whispered, "The Guardians have returned." The final battle for the fate of every universe had begun. No historian would ever agree on when the final battle truly began. Some said it started when the Devourer crossed the gateway. Others believed it began billions of years earlier, when the first builders chose to erase themselves rather than rule forever. Captain Elias Ward believed it began with a far simpler moment. The instant humanity chose not to stand alone. From every corner of the Milky Way, human vessels changed course. Mining ships, research stations, cargo freighters, colony transports, old military cruisers. None of them were designed to fight a being older than time itself. Yet they came. Messages flooded the galactic network. Earth Expeditionary Fleet reporting in. Mars Defense Wing ready. Titan Research Command joining formation. Civilian Rescue Convoy standing by. Alien commanders stared in disbelief. There was no supreme order. No forced conscription. No fear. Every ship had volunteered. Grand Admiral Zeros watched the growing formation. "They're bringing cargo ships?" An elderly human captain smiled over the comm channel. "They aren't cargo ships today." Within minutes, civilian vessels transformed into mobile hospitals, supply stations, evacuation platforms, and repair docks. Where alien fleets had prepared only for battle, humans had prepared to keep everyone alive. The Alliance finally understood why humanity was different. Their greatest weapon was not firepower. It was resilience. Inside the eternal galaxy, the heart of creation pulsed within Captain Ward. Golden streams of light stretched from Earth to every human in space. He could feel them all. A mechanic on lunar repairing engines. A medic comforting frightened children on a refugee transport. A scientist calculating impossible trajectories. A farmer on Earth looking up at the stars and whispering, "Come home safe." Billions of minds. Billions of hopes. Not controlling him. Strengthening him. The silver-haired king spoke one final time. This is what the first builders never understood. Ward looked at him. They believed power came from knowledge. The king nodded. But you discovered something greater. Trust. The devourer moved again. This time, reality fractured. A wave of darkness rolled across space. Entire nebulae disappeared. Black holes collapsed into silence. Stars aged millions of years in seconds. Alien fleets opened fire once more, not to win, but to buy time. Thousands of ships vanished instantly. Yet every second they delayed the darkness allowed another convoy to escape. Another child to survive. Another civilization to endure. Human rescue ships refused to retreat. Even under impossible odds, they crossed the battlefield again and again, pulling survivors from crippled alien vessels. An exhausted alien officer looked at the humans in disbelief. "Why are you saving us?" A young pilot answered without hesitation. "Because tomorrow, you'd do the same for us." The officer lowered his head. For the first time in his long life, he believed it. Captain Ward raised the heart of creation. The sphere expanded into a radiant sun. Its light spread across the battlefield. Every act of courage, every sacrifice, every choice to protect another. The heart transformed them into energy, not weapons. A shield. A brilliant wave of golden light met the devourer's darkness head-on. The collision shook galaxies. Stars flickered. Time itself seemed to hesitate. The devourer roared, not in anger, but in confusion. For billions of years it had consumed fear, hatred, despair. But this light, it could not understand. It had no shape, no weakness. It grew stronger every time someone chose hope over surrender. The darkness began to crack. Tiny fractures spread across its endless form. The impossible had happened. The oldest force in existence was being pushed back. Not by a single hero, not by an ancient superweapon, but by countless ordinary beings choosing one another over themselves. Captain Ward smiled. This universe belongs to everyone. The heart of creation blazed brighter than a million suns. Across Earth, people looked into the night sky as a new star appeared above the moon. Children would one day call it the guardian star. A reminder that on the day the universe stood on the edge of extinction, humanity did not become its rulers. They became its protectors. And in the silent depths of the eternal galaxy, the first builders watched with quiet pride. Their greatest creation had never been a galaxy. It had always been the human spirit. The battle was over. Or so everyone believed. Across the Galactic Alliance, celebrations erupted. Worlds that had spent millennia at war lowered their weapons. Ancient enemies embraced. The stars shone brighter than they had in billions of years. The guardian star hung above Earth's moon, a symbol of humanity's courage. Captain Elias Ward stood aboard the Odyssey, watching the peaceful glow of the eternal galaxy. For the first time since entering it, he allowed himself to breathe. "We did it," whispered Lieutenant Maya Chin. Ward nodded. "I think." Before he could finish, every light on the bridge dimmed. The heart of creation, still floating before him, began to pulse, not with golden light, but with a deep sapphire glow. A voice echoed through the ship. Not the silver-haired king. Not the architects. A voice older than either. "Guardian, your work in this universe is complete." The bridge windows dissolved into transparent darkness. The eternal galaxy disappeared. The Milky Way disappeared. Even the universe itself seemed to fade. The crew stared into an endless ocean of light. There were no stars. No planets. Only billions of glowing spheres floating in an infinite expanse. Each sphere contained an entire universe. Ward's heartbeat quickened. "We're outside." The voice answered. "Yes. Welcome to the sea of creation." Every universe was only a single drop in an ocean beyond imagination. Some were newborn, glowing with brilliant blue light. Others had faded to dim embers, nearing their end. A few were dark and empty, long abandoned. Ward realized the impossible truth. His universe was not everything. It was only one among countless others. The silver-haired king appeared one last time. But he no longer looked human. His form shimmered like living starlight, woven from galaxies and time itself. "You have earned the truth," he said. "The first builders did not create one universe." He gestured toward the endless sea. "We helped guide many." Ward looked around in stunned silence. "How many?" The king smiled. "We stopped counting after the first trillion." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Everything they had ever believed about existence suddenly felt impossibly small. Far across the sea of creation, something moved. Not the Devourer. Something larger. An enormous wave rolled across the infinite ocean. With every passing moment, entire universes winked out like candles. Ward felt a chill. "What is that?" The king's expression became solemn. "That is why the Guardians must continue. It is called the tide." Unlike the Devourer, the tide had no malice. It was simply the force that ended old universes so new ones could one day begin. A natural cycle. But something had gone terribly wrong. The tide was accelerating. Universes were dying far too quickly. "If it cannot be slowed," the king said quietly, "every universe in the sea of creation will disappear." Ward looked at the glowing sphere that contained his own universe. Earth. The Milky Way. Every friend. Every memory. All of it fit inside a single point of light. For the first time since becoming a guardian, he understood how fragile everything truly was. Behind him, the crew gathered silently. No one asked to go home. No one demanded an explanation. Lieutenant Chen stepped forward first. "If there's another mission, we're with you." One by one, every crew member nodded. Across the communication network, ships from dozens of alien civilizations transmitted the same message. "The Alliance stands with humanity." The old divisions were gone. Humans had inspired something greater than victory. They had inspired unity. The king smiled with unmistakable pride. "Then the Guardians have truly returned." As the Odyssey turned toward the endless sea of creation, countless universes shimmered before it like stars upon an infinite ocean. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the source of the tide was waiting. And no guardian who had gone to investigate had ever returned. The greatest journey in history was only just beginning. The Odyssey crossed the invisible boundary between universes. There was no explosion. No burst of light. No violent distortion. One heartbeat, the ship existed inside its own universe. The next. It sailed across the sea of creation. Around it drifted countless glowing spheres, each containing an entire universe. Some sparkled with young stars. Others flickered weakly, their final suns fading into darkness. Rivers of silver energy flowed between them like cosmic currents. For the first time, humanity was truly beyond the universe. No map existed. No laws of physics remained familiar. Even time no longer moved in a straight line. Lieutenant Maya Chen looked at the navigation display. "It's impossible." The console showed the Odyssey arriving at destinations before it departed. Some crew members saw their future reflections walking through the corridors. Others caught fleeting glimpses of themselves as children. Captain Elias Ward remained calm. "The heart is guiding us." Indeed, the heart of creation floated above the bridge, casting a golden path across the endless sea. It knew where to go. Weeks passed. Or perhaps centuries. No one could tell. The crew never grew older, yet their memories multiplied as though lifetimes were unfolding around them. They encountered silent universes wrapped in crystal shells. others where stars sang instead of burning. One universe contained no matter at all, only thoughts, drifting like luminous clouds. Each was unique. Each was beautiful. Each was slowly being consumed by the approaching tide. Finally, the heart stopped. Before the Odyssey floated something unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It resembled a colossal tree. Its roots stretched into countless universes. Its branches disappeared into infinity. Instead of leaves, galaxies bloomed upon its limbs. Every pulse of the tree created new stars. Every falling leaf became the birth of another universe. The crew stood speechless. The silver-haired king appeared beside Ward. "Behold, the tree of first light." Ward whispered, "So this is where everything began." The king nodded. "Not where life began. Where possibility began." As they approached, they noticed something horrifying. The roots were blackening. Entire branches had withered. Golden sap, the very essence of creation, leaked into the sea. The tree was dying. "If the tree falls," Maya whispered. The king answered gravely, "Every universe connected to it will fade, including their own." Ward stepped forward. "What poisoned it?" Before the king could answer, a voice echoed through the sea. Warm, gentle, ancient. "I did." The crew turned. An old woman sat beneath the enormous tree. She wore simple white robes. No crown. No armor. She looked like an ordinary grandmother tending a quiet garden. Yet every step she took caused newborn galaxies to blossom around her. "Who are you?" Ward asked. She smiled kindly. "I am the first light. The first consciousness to awaken when existence began." The crew instinctively lowered their heads. Not from fear. From awe. The first light touched one of the darkened roots. "It is not a poison. It is exhaustion." Ward frowned. "Exhaustion. For an eternity I have created. I have nurtured every universe. But nothing can create forever." A profound silence settled over the Odyssey. Even the oldest stars eventually burn out. Could creation itself grow tired? The first light looked directly at Captain Ward. "That is why humanity was hidden." The words struck him like lightning. "You believed you were descendants of the first builders. You are. But that was never the entire truth." She gently placed her hand over the glowing heart of creation. "It was made from my own light. And only one species has ever been able to carry it without being consumed." Ward's voice trembled. "Humans." She nodded. "For billions of years, I searched every universe. I created civilizations beyond imagination. They became powerful. They became wise. But only humanity learned something none of the others ever truly understood." She smiled through tired eyes. "You create hope, even when none exists." A single golden tear rolled down her cheek. "I can no longer sustain the tree alone." The roots cracked again. Dozens of nearby universes dimmed. The sea of creation trembled. The first light looked at the crew, then at Earth, glowing softly inside its distant sphere. Finally, she asked the question that would determine the fate of everything. "Will humanity help me create the next universe?" The bridge fell utterly silent. No weapon could answer. No empire could decide. Only humanity could. And Captain Elias Ward realized that the greatest challenge was never defeating darkness. It was accepting the responsibility to become the keepers of creation itself. No one spoke. The question hung in the sea of creation like the birth of a new star. Will humanity help me create the next universe? Captain Elias Ward looked through the bridge windows. Far below floated his own universe, a tiny sphere of shimmering light. Inside it were countless galaxies. The Milky Way. Earth. His family. Everyone he had ever known. For the first time in history, humanity stood at the edge of absolute power. The power not to conquer, but to create. Lieutenant Maya Chin finally broke the silence. If we say yes, can we ever go home? The First Light closed her eyes. You may return, but you will never again be only human. You will become guardians. You will witness civilizations rise and fall. You will see stars ignite. You will outlive galaxies. You will carry memories no ordinary mind was meant to bear. The weight of her words settled over the crew. Immortality was not a reward. It was a responsibility. Back in the Milky Way, strange things were happening. Without warning, every person on Earth saw the same dream. A vast ocean of light. A great cosmic tree. A tired woman beneath its branches. Children in Tokyo described the same vision as farmers in Kenya. Astronauts orbiting Mars saw it. Miners beneath Europa's ice saw it. Even alien worlds allied with humanity experienced echoes of the dream. No government could explain it. No scientist could dismiss it. The entire universe had become part of one decision. Inside the Sea of Creation, the silver-haired king approached Ward one final time. I once stood where you stand. Ward looked at him. You accepted. The king nodded. And I failed. Ward frowned. You failed. I believed guardians should carry the burden alone. I tried to protect humanity from every hardship. In doing so, I denied them the chance to grow. He smiled sadly. Do not repeat my mistake. Ward turned toward his crew, then toward the endless universes surrounding them. He realized something extraordinary. This choice was never his alone. He activated the Universal Communication Network. Instantly, every human settlement received his transmission. Earth, Mars, lunar colonies, deep space stations, exploration fleets. Billions of faces appeared across the holographic display. Scientists, teachers, mechanics, doctors, children, ordinary people. Ward took a slow breath. I've been offered something no civilization has ever received. The chance to help shape the future of existence. But I refuse to decide for humanity. This choice belongs to all of us. For several moments, silence. Then a little boy from Earth raised his hand. If people in the next universe are scared, someone should help them. An elderly woman smiled. We were helped once. It's our turn now. A firefighter spoke next. We don't walk away because the job is difficult. An astronaut added. We crossed oceans. We crossed space. Why stop now? Soon millions of voices blended into one. Different languages. Different cultures. One answer. We choose hope. The First Light wept openly. Never in all eternity had an entire civilization answered with one heart. Not through force. Not through obedience. Through compassion. She placed her hand upon the heart of creation. It expanded into a radiant sun. Golden roots spread from it into the tree of First Light. The withered branches bloomed again. Dead universes reignited. Fading stars burned brightly once more. The tide slowed, then retreated. Across the Sea of Creation, new spheres appeared, tiny at first, glowing with the promise of lives yet to exist. Creation had begun anew. The First Light smiled at humanity. You have succeeded where even the first builders could not. Ward whispered. What made us different? She looked toward the tiny blue planet called Earth. You never believed greatness belonged only to heroes. You believed ordinary people could change everything. And you were right. As the tree of First Light flourished once more, a new title echoed through every universe. Not emperors. Not conquerors. Not gods. The guardians of hope. Yet, as celebration spread across existence, something stirred in the deepest darkness beyond the sea of creation. Something that had watched silently since before the first universe was born. Two ancient eyes slowly opened, and for the very first time, they smiled. The smile in the darkness lasted only a moment. Then, the ancient eyes closed once more. Captain Elias Ward felt the presence immediately. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't fearful. It was curious. The first light looked into the endless darkness beyond the sea of creation and smiled. So, you finally decided to wake up. The crew exchanged confused glances. There is something even older than you? Maya Chen whispered. The first light nodded. Much older. The darkness slowly unfolded. Not into a monster. Not into a god. But into an old traveler wrapped in a cloak woven from countless galaxies. He carried no weapon. No crown. Only a simple wooden staff that shimmered with newborn stars. Wherever he walked, empty space blossomed into light. The sea of creation itself seemed to welcome him. Every universe brightened in his presence. The old traveler stopped before Captain Ward. For a long moment, he simply smiled. Then he asked, "Tell me, Guardian, what have you learned?" Ward thought about everything humanity had endured. Wars, loss, hope, sacrifice, the temptation of limitless power. He answered quietly, "We learned that strength isn't measured by what you can destroy. It's measured by what you're willing to protect." The traveler nodded. "And what is the greatest civilization?" Ward looked toward the tiny blue sphere that held Earth. The one that helps others become strong. The traveler smiled even wider. Then the experiment was a success. The crew froze. "Experiment?" Maya asked. The traveler looked toward the first light. Then toward the tree. Then toward every universe floating across the endless sea. This was never a test of intelligence. It was never a test of technology. It was never about who could build the biggest fleets or rule the most galaxies. He looked directly into Ward's eyes. It was always a test of character. With a wave of his staff, the sea of creation transformed. Ward saw countless timelines. In one, humanity conquered the galaxy through fear. That civilization destroyed itself. In another, humanity pursued only knowledge and abandoned compassion. It vanished. In another, they became immortal rulers. Eventually, they forgot why life mattered. Each timeline ended the same way. Power without empathy always collapsed. Then the final vision appeared. The timeline they had lived. Humanity stumbled, fell, made terrible mistakes. But every generation left the universe a little kinder than they found it. That was the difference. The traveler raised his hand. The heart of creation gently floated away from Captain Ward. It no longer belonged to one person. Instead, it divided into billions of tiny lights. Each spark drifted through the cosmos. One settled into the hands of a young engineer on Mars. Another into an artist on Earth. Another into an alien child on a distant world. None of them gained superpowers. Instead, each carried the ability to inspire others. The first light smiled. The future should never depend on a single hero. It belongs to everyone. Thousands of years passed. Then millions. The eternal galaxy became a place where young civilizations came not for conquest, but to learn. Earth was no longer called a primitive world. Nor was it called an empire. Across every language in every universe, it became known by a single name. The home of the Guardians. Pilgrims from newborn civilizations would travel unimaginable distances just to see the small blue planet where ordinary people had chosen hope over power. Children would ask, Is it true humans once saved every universe? Their teachers would smile. No. They taught every universe how to save itself. On a quiet evening beneath Earth's familiar sky, Captain Elias Ward, now an old man once again, sat on a hillside overlooking the stars. Beside him sat his granddaughter. She pointed upward. "Grandpa, which one is the biggest galaxy?" Ward smiled. "The one filled with the most hope." She laughed. "That's not a real answer." He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "The biggest things in the universe aren't measured in light years. They're measured in the lives they change." Above them, the guardian star shone brighter than ever. Far beyond the edge of the universe, the tree of first light continued to bloom. New universes were born. New civilizations took their first breaths. And whenever darkness threatened to return, stories of humanity traveled faster than light. Not because humans were the strongest. Not because they possessed the greatest technology. But because, when the entire cosmos stood on the brink of extinction, humanity proved that the greatest force in existence was neither power nor knowledge. It was the courage to choose hope. And somewhere, beyond the oldest stars, the ancient traveler smiled once more. "The guardians are ready." The universe was safe. Not forever. But for another beginning. The end.